today Steve's going under the knife for the final time. Going to pull everything off, get the engine out. Hopefully the motor mounts are good. I think they should be fine. I got the radiator out already. Gonna pull the power steering lines, the fuel lines, the trans mount, pull the shifter out, get all the electrical off, and then hoping to get it all swapped into the new truck today and get it driving around. See how that goes. Fuel lines off, the heater hose disconnected, vacuum line for the brake booster, all the EGR and EVAP, emissions controls, all the harnesses. I'm gonna take the whole chassis harness because I don't know what condition that chassis harness is in the gray truck because it was butchered by whoever had it prior. So we're gonna take out the ECU plug and run it through the firewall. So I gotta take out the airbox and the fan motor, which I'm actually gonna keep so I can put them in the new rig and have heat. So all I gotta do is pull the motor mounts, the shifter, trans mounts, and pull the airbox out so I can get this through the firewall, and then we should be able to pick this thing up. So I actually have to pull out the entire dash to get the harness out. So I gotta pull literally every bolt out of the front of this thing just to get the harness out, which, you know, it'll be nice so I can have the ignition working and all the heater controls, and I guess the new dash might work with the old harness because it's a 96 and this is 91, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Even if it doesn't work with the gauges, I can just use the micro squirt plug-in to actually get a readout on like an old Apple iPad. So not a huge deal, but gotta pull literally the whole truck apart now. So we got the wiring harness out, all the interior pieces are out, so we can get the harness pulled through there, all the way across through there. Alright, attempt number 1. Oh, shifter's still on. Hi, Mickey. What are you doing? Oh. Well, because I'm trying to put the new engine in my other truck. Hey. Pressure washer clean. Should have gotten a pan gasket or some RTV, but honestly, once we put a turbo on this thing, it's probably gonna pop. So at that point, we'll pull it out of the truck again and do a full rotating assembly, gasket kit, all that good stuff when it actually pops. Because I think it'll hold 300 horse for about, I don't know, a couple hours. Maybe it doesn't even make it out the dyno, we'll see. Made it. All right, got some shit in my eyeball from pressure washing this thing. But we're gonna go over a little bit of what the previous owner did. You can see there's a kind of a standalone harness. This is the factory block, but you can see he's basically gutted it and ran all of his relays and stuff just directly to a fuel pump and everything he needed to run on the engine. There's no chassis harness, so there's no blinkers, there's no creature comforts, there's no blower motor circuit, there's nothing. So there's just engine management, that's all it is. So what we're going to be doing is tearing all this out actually, and then installing the harness that is pulled out of the other truck. I'm not planning on using all of it, but I don't want to even deal with his mess. Like, I don't want to deal. This is coming out of the chassis harness. He just tapped into the wires he needed and then grounded the ones he needed to have a circuit. So we got literally every wire out of the truck except for the fuel pump harness and the rear taillight harness, and then the front headlight harness for the passenger side, which is it's coming out anyway. Alright, so it's the second day. I actually went down and got the motor mount welded in. It's not beautiful, but you know, the whole thing isn't very beautiful, so not really worried about it. Gonna get the power steering lines installed because I don't want to put them in after the fact. Get the reservoir mounted, get the clutch line mounted off the other one because they had probably just a braided line they used. I'm just gonna use the original stock one because cheap. Do that, get the wiring harness fed through, get it all zip tied in place on the dash brace. Hopefully all the drive shaft mounting points line up. There's not a carrier bearing on this one, and there's a one-piece drive shaft, so I'm hoping it just, you know, connects properly. So we'll see how that goes. So all we gotta do is put the trans mount on, the support bracket, get that tightened up, and then run the wires through and start getting things plugged in. Drive shaft. Woo! So we got the two pieces of the drive shaft. I'm going to cut a sleeve. This is going to actually sleeve inside the drive shaft in here, line them up, and we'll weld together. Back at my place, gonna have to put a new carrier bearing on it because you can see the whole assembly fell apart. The bearing is still good, which is weird, but the assembly needs to be replaced. So we gotta pull the yoke off there and get the new bearing on. Hopefully it just slides on, but we'll see what happens. So you can see here, this is the new bearing. It's a new nut and assembly, and this is the old one. Yeah, I mean, we drove Steve like 30 miles on this. And the only reason it was working is because the actual bearing here would eventually catch the side of this assembly in the
and the little clamp it's in and just start rotating on the bearing. So it worked. It's just, it wouldn't be very drivable with anything more than 80 horsepower because it would start banging back and forth between the cage, which is not ideal. So we're gonna get this pressed off, get this one pressed on, get the drive shaft that we just shortened over at Cooper's shop. You can see right here, I actually sleeved it. It's pretty tight, so I can't pull it apart. I'll still need to weld that. I just left it raw so that we can put it in the truck and kind of slide it to length. I think it's pretty much perfect. I think the measurements are pretty accurate, so shouldn't be much issue there. I'm just hoping there's no vibration once we're done with this, because there's a possibility there will be. I wasn't recording, but it was actually very easy. Didn't even Ooga dooga once, it just came right off. God, I hope we don't have to cut that off. That would suck so bad. Suck. What are you gonna do? Got the whole bearing out. Look at that. Pew! Pew! That penetration into the inside of that sleeve. Back at the house, gonna get the drive shaft put back together, stick it in the new truck, and then get the fuel filter on, fuel lines, and she should run. I just got the carrier bearing and drive shaft in. Everything seems to line up pretty well. All right, so we got the fuel lines hooked up. This truck actually didn't have fuel lines, so I had to put some fuel lines I had laying around, and they're like 3/8 fuel lines, so it's way overkill for the KA, but it works. New fuel filter, new lines up to the stock manifold and rail. Gonna turn it over with the trusty Nissan starting wire, because this is the same harness that was in Steve, so it still has the starting issue, but I'm pretty confident it should fire up. Sounds like it's misfiring. Let's check all the plugs. So it's a couple days later. I had to fix some water lines. I'd leaked in the sprinklers. Gonna get the truck started. I actually found that the distributor signal back to the computer wasn't hooked up, so that's why it would fire one cylinder then not catch the rest of them. So got that plugged in. It does fire up. I actually already started it, but so it runs. That'll do it for this video. The next video will be actually driving it, NA for a little bit, just to get all the drivability issues out of the way. You know, leaks, power steering, vacuum leaks, all the EGR stuff needs to get figured out to install the EGR and the evap can. But if you like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, hit that like button, turn your notifications on, and just keep up with your boy.